So, I'm a new Pixel user. How did that happen? Well, I found the best possible trade-in offer for my old Galaxy S21. First, Google was offering $150 straight off the Pixel 8. Then, I got to add in an insane trade-in offer of $310 for my S21. I thought Google was crazy for offering that much on an S21 when I can buy a used one for $150. I think this was the sign for me to start my journey into the Google Pixel series. Well, I've already got my Pixel 8, which means I have to say farewell to my S21. I have 30 days to send in my S21 to Google, and with my last few weeks with it, I thought it might be interesting to compare the 3-year-old S21 flagship against the Pixel 8, because I might have just traded down instead of trading up. So let's find out. Let's start off with the design. Both phones have rounded metal frames, which make them feel premium and really comfortable to hold. Both have punch holes for the front camera, but for the rear cameras, it's a totally different story. The Pixel 8's camera bump is pretty massive, because the cameras are housed within this aluminum band that is seamlessly integrated with the frame. While I like the unique look of the camera band on the Pixel 8, I prefer the S21's slim and sleek camera hump. On the back, the Pixel 8 has super glossy glass, and it's very slippery. The first time I held and touched the back, I thought it was actually plastic. And on the S21, we do have a plastic back, but with a matte finish, which I really like more. Moving on to the display. Both phones have a 6.2-inch 1080p display with 120Hz adaptive screen refresh and similar pixel densities. The main differences here are that the S21 has an AMOLED display with 1300 nits of brightness, while the Pixel 8 has an OLED display with 1400 nits. To me, there is really no visible difference in the screen quality. The S21 may be just a tad brighter and more vibrant, but I would just say that is the standard Samsung tone. So for software, both the S21 and Pixel 8 are running the latest Android 14 as of this comparison. And Samsung has promised the S21 will get an Android 15 update. The S21 has Samsung's One UI, which is very feature-rich and has improved a lot over the years. My favorite features on the Galaxy S21 are Secure Folder, which are for my private apps and files, Pro Photo and Video modes, and being able to organize my apps in the app drawer. The Pixel 8 has the Pixel UI, which is very close to stock Android, but with Google's own Pixel features. It's very clean and minimal, and also refreshing to see no bloatware or duplicate apps. And as a new Pixel user, my favorite features so far are the call screening, so I never have to talk to these spammers, a universal text select for any app in the app switcher, and now playing on my lock screen to identify what song is playing around me. Where I think Samsung has done better than the Pixel is the quick settings menu. The layout is a lot cleaner with sections and large icons, whereas the Pixel has these big bubbles with scrolling text, which I think doesn't fit the Pixel aesthetics. Okay, for SoCs, we have the S21's Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 with 8GB of RAM and 8 cores. And we have Google's Tensor G3 with 8GB of RAM as well, but with 9 cores. There's slightly more battery capacity in the Pixel 8 at 4,575 mAh versus the S21's 4,000 mAh. So in terms of performance, the 3-year-old Snapdragon 888 in the S21 is not going to outperform the newest Tensor G3 in any tests. But who cares? Maybe if you're extreme gaming or editing, but for average everyday use, the S21's performance is still going to perform better than current budget end phones. Okay, moving on to cameras, and there are big differences here. The S21 has 3 rear cameras, a 12 megapixel wide, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 64 megapixel telephoto. On the Pixel 8, we only have 2 rear cameras, a 50 megapixel wide and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. We're missing a telephoto here. and both cameras have 12 megapixel front cameras. The biggest difference here are in the main sensor sizes. The S21 has a 1 and 1.76 inch at f1.8, and the Pixel 8 is a bit bigger with a 1 and 1.31 inch sensor paired with a slightly wider aperture at f1.7. So let's do a quick camera comparison to see if we can find any differences. In this first photo, it was a cloudy day and it had just stopped raining. Immediately I can see that both photos are very sharp, but there are some obvious differences here. First, we can see that the colors are more vibrant on the S21, way more than in real life. The Pixel 8 captured the true color tones more accurately here. The next difference is of course the background bokeh. We can definitely see the Pixel 8's wider f1.7 at work, which creates a slight more blur and a nicer shot in this case. In this shot, we can see how the S21 favors warm tones and saturation, while the Pixel 8 has a natural tone and more accurate colors showing white rice instead of yellow rice. In this ultra-wide shot at the stadium, I can immediately see that the S21 is slightly underexposed because of the dark areas, such as behind the benches and the vendor's dark face. The Pixel 8 exposed the overall scene better here, where we can actually make out the bench color being green and the vendor's face not being so dark. In this night shot, both are exposed really well, but as you can see, we get two very different scenes. The S21 is flooding the scene with an insane amount of yellow, almost like a filter for a horror movie. And the Pixel 8 is keeping everything pretty natural with not so much yellow. You can see that specifically in the petals on the tree, which are supposed to be white. Lastly, let's look at zoom. So the Pixel 8 doesn't have a telephoto lens, but we can still digitally zoom to the 8x max. The S21 has a 64 megapixel telephoto lens, so we're just going to compare both at 8x. In this shot, the Pixel 8 is looking a bit sharper here. But if we punch in a bit, we can see that the Pixel did a lot of processing to interpolate some parts of the scene. Just look at the player numbers. Number 26 isn't as clear, but the S21 shows it a bit better, though a bit blurry. To sum up the cameras, the Pixel 8 has better consistency of the exposure and color tone true to real life. The S21 likes more saturation and contrast in its photos. Even though I like the natural photos coming out of the Pixel 8 more, the S21 still captures amazing photos. Plus, you get that third lens, the telephoto. I think the S21 wins here. So, what did I make of this comparison? Is the Pixel 8 a upgrade or a downgrade from the Galaxy S21? Well, for me, it's both. The obvious major upgrade is the Pixel software, which is a little more differentiated than I thought with its great user experience features like call screening and the universal text select. On the hardware side though, there really wasn't much of an upgrade besides the SoC. For being 3 years newer than the Galaxy S21, I was expecting bigger upgrades like a better display and a third camera. The Galaxy S21 is holding up really well for being a 3-year-old phone. Seriously, the phone isn't really incapable of anything. And because it is part of the Galaxy S flagship series, it already comes with much better hardware and software features packed in. Now that I have the Pixel 8, the biggest benefit is for you guys to be able to see some of the latest Android features that Google releases. So please like and subscribe to see more with Android and Pixel. See you guys in the next one.